Ideal Protein is a doctor-designed, coach-led ketogenic weight loss protocol that uses food as medicine to empower you to lose weight and live your healthiest life.
And welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Weekly Show, a podcast brought to you by the Livingston Parish News. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news, and this is Group Therapy. It's a time where I get to sit down with these two gentlemen, and we talk about what's going on in Livingston Parish. I'm going to let them introduce themselves real quick. We're going to start on the viewers left.
Hey, this is Rob D. Armand, sports editor with the Livingston Parish News.
And this is David Gray, news writer with the Livingston Parish News.
And today we're going to start off with something that kind of dominated the area yesterday, and for good reason.
Last week, really.
yeah. Nick Touye was laid to rest yesterday.
Correct.
Large procession that hit several parts of Baton Rouge and the main part of Denham Springs. So you caught him when they got here, correct, David?
Well, actually, I was at the service yesterday
as
well. Yeah, I kind of was running around Baton Rouge and Denham Springs all day yesterday. But no, we got that news last Thursday. I told you I was laying in bed, kind of trying to have a late morning, I guess you could say. I'm usually up working by 7, but it was like 7:45, and I was trying to just be lazy. And then I look on my phone, and James Touye, Nick's father, had posted that his son had died. And earlier in the week, we actually ran a story last week that the doctors had told them, it was kind of only a matter of time, that there wasn't really much else that they could do. So it was about 3 or 4 days after that Nick passed, and that pretty much has dominated the news cycle, here locally the last 5 days. There was a procession last Thursday that took him from the lake in Baton Rouge to Seal Funeral Home in Denham. That's who was handling the funeral arrangements, and then that was there. Tributes coming from all over. The last week. Mr. Nick, well, I guess I should say Sergeant Nick. He was promoted yesterday during the funeral service from corporal to sergeant. So Sergeant Nick Touye, he left his mark, and that was sort of what everyone was, that's what everyone has been saying the last almost week now. He did. It's kind of weird that he might have impacted more people after he was shot than he did before. And he impacted a lot of people before as well, but his story is, not just a local story or even a state story. It's a national, and there's some worldwide outlets that have written about Nick Touye. So this week's paper, we have just the announcement and the procession. Some of the stories of the tributes that were made to him. From the governor's office to our local sheriff Jason R. to Sid Gotro, sheriff in East Baton Rouge. Mayor, President, East Baton Rouge, Sharon Westenbroom. I mean, just everyone, wanted to just kind of touch on what Nick meant to this community. And I guess I, left out how, that he was shot in July 2016, that, awful summer in Baton Rouge where he had the death of Alton Sterling, then the ambush on law enforcement that killed 3 and injured 3 others, including Nick. And then a month after that, we had the flood. So that's just like a summer I don't think any of us could really could ever forget. And but Nick, they didn't think he'd last a day, then a week, then a month, and he lasted 2,118 days. So just a testament to his perseverance, determination, and his family's sacrifice, because they, God only knows what they've dealt with the last almost 6 years now. And yesterday, that funeral, so we'll have a story in next week's paper, about the funeral. But yeah, I mean, it was an emotional day for them. You could just see it on their faces.
Yeah. A tough day for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And mostly his family, but it's such a testament. Like you said, I mean, I remember after all that happened, we sat here and discussed it, and Mr. James had talked to our writer at the time, and they weren't giving him a whole lot of chances.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't giving him a big shot, and here we are, very close to the 6-year anniversary, and just that, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, moving on to something a little more lighthearted, except it kind of not. It's a bit bittersweet. Mr. Rob D. Armand here will be heading out of here, going to Sulphur And kind of a neat story. We talked about it, and it came true. Springfield and Doyle are going to be meeting in the semifinal. Bittersweet because one of them's got to go home.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit first and foremost about how they got there.
Let's see. We'll go back to I guess the weekend, and they we talked about it last week. They both had to win. You know, you want to look at it, but they both had to get through their series. They both sweep their series 2-0. Kind of dominating the way they did it. You know, Doyle's been, you know, they've been having that big inning. They point to the fifth inning a lot of times. You know, where you know Coach Beatty says sometimes he just looks at them. It's the fifth inning, guys. Come on, you know, let's here we are. Let's go do something. So that's pretty been, and you know, and he says that's their MO. For theirs, and then with Springfield, they wind up sweeping of Royals Charter. Blake Lobel, I think if I remember right, pitched well, maybe 11 strikeouts. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head in the opening game, and then that second game. When I talked to Coach Blanchard on that Friday night after they won that first one, he said, "Well, we're going to go out and put a little pressure on them and see what happens." And I don't remember a time when they moved a runner on base that anybody got thrown out. If I remember correctly, they stole 14 bases, just moving runners around. They scored 3 or 4 balls on wild pitches, and he made a great point that, you know, he said, you know, in these types of situations, maybe that's not a wild pitch in a March 3rd game, but here we are in May, and the stakes go up a little bit, so the nerves may get you a little bit, but
right, and you got to make them count.
Yeah, and so I mean that I went back and I said I don't think you guys got thrown out at any point. Anytime they wanted to move somebody up, they were able to do it. So they did exactly what they wanted in that second game.
So these two are going to be facing off tomorrow, correct?
Today.
It'll
be this evening, 6:00
Gotcha.
at McMurray Park in Sulphur. For Springfield, it's their first time to get this far to the semifinals. For Doyle, it's not counting that COVID year. It's their 3rd straight trip. Braden McLean has been there as a starter three times, which is pretty cool. So if you can do that, you know, got to talk to both the coaches and you know, they played 2 great games in district earlier this year. And they're not expecting anything less. And then you throw in the aspect of these guys know each other. You know, they've been playing with or against each other since they were kids, you know, little kids, and here they are. And like you said, it's that bittersweet thing. Somebody's got to go home, and you know, a little bit of gamesmanship too. I think is I kind of laughed because neither one of them wanted to give me a starting pitcher. So you know, I kind of laughed a little bit. You know, Blake threw well. He's got the rest, and then Jaden Teague, you know, he threw about 75, 76 pitches on Saturday. So Coach Blanchard said his arm's feeling great, and it's the same with Doyle. You know, Coach Beatty was like, I don't want to tell him we're going to throw the righty and have him prepare for the righty, and I don't want to say we're going to throw the lefty and have him prepare for the lefty. So a little bit of gamesmanship, you know, you kind of chuckle at that and you say it's okay, that's fine, you know. But like you know, like Coach Blanchard said, they're going to go out and you know, you let the chips fall, but at the same time you realize that 20 years down the road, these guys may have their own sons going to Springfield and Doyle respectively, and they'll always look back and go, hey, remember in 22 when we beat you in the semis? So he said that's forever bragging rights that won't go away for them. So.
Sure, and it'll be interesting to see who advances and who has to go home. Of course, I think that's going to be tough for all of them. So that coming up this evening, 6 p.m. Going to get this out today so everybody can hear about it. Of course, follow Rob on Twitter. He will be over there in Sulphur, and of course, you know, part of the bittersweet deal is a Livingston Parish team is going to the 2A state championship.
Yeah.
So you will be back up there Saturday.
That'll be Friday. So,
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They the select championships have moved to Southeastern, so they're not they're not having to worry about. I shouldn't say worry about, but that's an aspect that they don't have to contend with.
Right.
Where, you know, last year I think Doyle played that championship game at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was back here by, I think Adam had a baseball banquet that day, so basically stopped by the house, dropped my stuff off, and went to a banquet. And they were like, "Where were you?" I was like, "I was watching baseball earlier today." So,
Right.
but it's there. It's like Coach Blanchard told them too. He told his kids that, "Hey, look, y'all got 6 o'clock games. They're here to see you guys. These are the late matchups. Y'all are here, and people are going to come to see you guys these nights." So
Sure.
Dang, you got unlucky with them moving the select to Southeastern instead of the other ones.
Right.
Sorry, man.
it'd be a whole lot easier, man.
Yeah,
right down the road.
Yeah, I was about to say, Rob lives right on the corner from Southeastern. So we're going to cover one more thing with David and come back to Rob for a little bit of those were state track finals, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
That is correct.
So we'll be talking about state track here in just a second. Mr. Gray, the other thing is it's pretty much become a staple, probably over the last 5 to 6 years. The sheriff, local law enforcement, and I know Woody Overton of Real Life, Real Crime sort of re-upped the discussion about the disappearance of Barbara Blunt in 2008. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that happens pretty much every May now when Livingston Parish Sheriff Jason Ard takes to social media just asking for more calls for information. Barbara Blunt disappeared in 2008, May 2nd, 2008. She was, and it's kind of been one of those cases that they just have never been able. I mean, obviously they've never been able to solve because they keep asking for information. It's one of the few, unsolved cases that the sheriff's office has. So I mean, it's something that has really stuck with them. She, apparently was abducted by force from her home on LA Highway 1036 near the St. Helena Parish line. And the theory is that it was probably someone she knew because, there was no sign of forced entry at her house. One of the things that stand out, they say her pot stuff was taken out of the shelves and stacked on the ground as if she was going to be cleaning that day. And her gun was still found at the house, and that was another odd thing because she never left. She rarely left her house without her gun. And they found her car about a half mile or so down the road on a major highway. The keys were on the ground outside, but one of the problems with this when this happened, if you go back and look at the stories, is there was a big downpour in Livingston Parish over those days, and over the that day and the days after that really hampered their search efforts for a little while. And when they found her car, there was also water covering the floorboards in the cars. I mean, there was a lot that really kind of stalled them looking, and possibly destroyed evidence that they might have otherwise seen. And it was just one of those cases. I posted a story, I think for sure the last 2 years, maybe the last 3 years. And, you'll see the comments on Facebook. People, still remember Barbara Blunt going missing. I mean, 2008, I was just a year, I have just graduated the year before from high school. So, I mean, I don't really remember what it was like, but people, who were, who lived here during that time, they, it's something that they have always remembered, her disappearing and the search efforts that, resulted from that. And, it's like you see in movies, sheriff's deputies, hundreds of volunteers just searching the woods, trying to find any shred of evidence. And, it's been a cold case, though. They've never been able to really find any evidence. Her body's never been found. She was 58 at the time of her disappearance, and she'd be 72 now. But, they're still holding out hope. The family's still holding out hope that, someone will be able to give them information. Like they said, they believe it was someone she knew because there was no forced entry at the house. Her gun was still, she didn't take her gun with her. If she would have felt threatened, maybe she would have. The back door was open, left open when police got there. So they believe that someone out there knows something, that this wasn't just a random abduction. And, they're holding out hope that someone will be able to bring the family closure at some point.
Right. So if you know anything, you can call the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. Of course, they're always looking for tips, any kind of pointers in the right direction. All right, to wrap it up, we're going to go back to Rob, and we're going to talk about state track, which, of course, is at LSU every year. And I know that usually it's not the whole team that goes to this particular event. I know individual athletes make their showing. So maybe start with Morpaw and go up.
Yeah, we'll do that for sure. With Marpaw, you're just looking at Madeline Amy repeating as the pole vault champion in Class B. It's just one of those things where you talk to her and I was like, okay, it's in the bag, right? And she goes, no, I'm just I go out there and I'm so worried about not making my heights and things like that. So she's still got the nerves, but it's like she's out there winning, and I think it was I'm trying to remember what her mark was, and off the top of my head, I can't. But a little bit less than last year's. But I think she set the class record last year. I think it was 11.7 maybe. But I'm going off the top of my head. But that was the big thing there for Marpaw, was that she repeats as champion, and of course she's she said she's got to the competition's getting better. So she can see it, because she mentioned last year she came in late after everybody had finished, so she was basically competing against herself. This year was a little different. She was able to sit back and watch some people compete and kind of cheer them on, and she said it just shows me that I've got to do a little bit more to continue to if I want to win another state championship, I've got to continue to work at it, which is that's something you see, and that's a credit to her for noticing, and seeing it, and noticing that her competition is also getting better.
Sure. Moving up from there, I know Denham and Walker had a large showing, correct?
Let's see. Walker had one.
Okay.
Sydney Cifrio. She placed 6th, I want to say. I'm totally winging some of this right here, so excuse me for that. But in Denham's case, they go in and the girls finish 6th, which I think is they were tied for 6th, which I think is an all-time high for them. And Hannah Linebaugh wins a state championship in the 1600. It was pretty cool story. Trying to get in touch with her. She's really into the mental approach and how she approaches getting ready for meets. And she said, night before the meet, she was kind of nervous, so she started talking to her dad, and he said, if you can win one, I'll take you for a test drive in a Lamborghini. Her nickname is Hannah Lamborghini, which is how this happens. So she won that 1600. And she said, let me just tell you a little story. So I said, does this mean I can get your nickname in a story? She said, yes, absolutely. So we made it work. So she said, hopefully over the summer, she's going to get to take that test drive of that Lamborghini and see what happens there. So just a really solid showing there from Denham. In 3A, Caden Boudreaux finished 2nd in the 1600. She was, she projected to finish in those top spots in a couple of other events, but she had some issues with the heat and some cramping and things like that. She had to wind up pulling out of the 3200, I believe, if I remember correctly. And she said it's just one of those things that she said it's never happened before with heat and things like that. But if you've ever been there, it's hot, there's no cloud cover, you're in it all day. Even if you're in the shade, it's still hot out there. But she said it's a lesson learned. She said, I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again next year. So
there you go. Live Oak?
Live Oak didn't have anybody qualify this year. So also I wanted to mention Taylor Purvis from Holden was 2nd in the pole vault there in Class B. So and that was a personal best for him. He came in with a mark of 11 feet, and I think he wound up at 11.6, and the guy who won it was at 12. So I was like, man, Taylor, and I was kind of watching it, so you'd see them, they'd make it or they'd miss the first 2, and then they'd hit that last one and they'd move on. And I said, man, you came in with 11, you go at 11.6, and he said, well, I started talking to the guys, I was competing against, and they said some of their regional marks weren't their best. They still qualified, but they weren't their best. So he goes, once that started happening, you knew you had to up it a little bit to kind of get there. But, that was a personal best for him. So it's obviously, and his first state meet too. So obviously something he can build on there too.
Sure. All right. Well, I know we got to get you on the road, and Mr. DeArmond, and David, you got somewhere to be as well.
Oh yeah, we got a busy day. And also, just a reminder, graduation starts this Friday, so we'll have all the photos.
Wow.
We have photographers lined up. We got everyone covered. So, and they're back at Southeastern this year, which for Rob would be awesome, but not so much for me. Yeah. I live in Baton Rouge. Rob lives in Hammond, so But oh well, that's a sign that COVID is getting behind us, because that's why it has not been a Southeastern the last couple of years, because of COVID. But they are allowing that now, so I believe there's 4 at Southeastern this year.
Gotcha.
So we will have all those covered, and then in the next few papers for sure.
Yep. So be on the lookout for that on that space, and of course, always on social media. I'm gonna let these two gentlemen introduce themselves. We started. Who did we start with?
I think with me.
Yes.
Yeah, we did. So we'll start with David this time.
This is David Gray, news writer with the Livingston Parish News.
Hey, this is Rob DeOrman, sports editor with the Livingston Parish News.
And my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor in the news. Appreciate you guys out there joining us for the Livingston Parish News Weekly Show. This is Group Therapy. It's a time when I get to sit down with these gentlemen and talk about what's going on in Livingston Parish. Please remember the news is on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. One last time, we appreciate you joining us. We hope you have a great day, and we will see you next time.